Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. In this audio, in this video, we will continue book Epistle of Sufism, al-Qushayriyyah. Before that, if you still not subscribed, please subscribe and press bell icon. So let's start. Absence, ghaiba, and presence, hudur. Absence is when the heart is absent from knowing the circumstances of creatures due to the complete absorption of the senses by what has appeared to it from God. One may also become absent from oneself and others through remembering God, promise of reward, and thinking of God's punishment. It is said that Rabi bin Hutham used to visit Ibn Masud, may God be pleased with him. As he was passing by a blacksmith shop, he saw a red-hot iron in the oven and fainted, and did not come to until the next morning. When he woke up, he was asked about what had happened. He answered, I remember how the people of hellfire will sojourn in the fire. This was an absence that went beyond its limit and turned into a swoon. It is recounted of Ali bin al-Husayn that he was performing a ritual prayer when suddenly his house caught fire. However, he did not interrupt his prayer. When asked about that, he said, the greatest fire made me oblivious of that fire. Occasionally, a man can be rendered absent from his self-perception by something that God, may he be blessed and exalted, reveals to him. Those who experience absence differ from one another according to their spiritual states. It is well known that the spiritual state of Abu Hafs al-Nisaburi al-Haddad, the blacksmith, began when he gave up his profession. He was in his smithy when he heard someone reciting a verse from the Quran. At that moment, he had an experience that made him oblivious of his senses. He put his hand into the fire and took out a piece of red-hot iron. His apprentice saw this and cried, What is this, master? When Abu Hafs realized what had just happened, he gave up his trade and left his smithy for good. Once Al-Junayd was sitting together with his wife. Al-Shibli entered the room. The wife hurried to cover herself, but Al-Junayd said to her, Sit still, for Al-Shibli is unaware of you. Al-Junayd conversed with Al-Shibli for a while until the latter broke into tears. When he began to cry, Al-Junayd said to his wife, Cover yourself now, for Al-Shibli has come too. I heard Abu Nasr, the Muwazzin al-Muhaddidin of Nishapur, who was a pious man, say, I was reading the Quran at the session of Master Abu Ali al-Dakkak at Nishapur when he was residing there. He used to talk a lot about the Hajj, and his words left a deep imprint in my heart. When I went on Hajj that year, I abandoned my store and my trade. Master Abu Ali al-Dakkak, may God have mercy on him, also went on Hajj that same year. When he was living in Nishapur, I used to serve him and to attend study sessions at his house. As I was on my way to Makkah, I saw him in the desert. After he had performed his ablution, He forgot the bottle he used to carry with him. I picked it up and carried it with me. When he resumed his journey, I gave it to him. He said, "May God reward you for bringing it." He looked at me for a while, as if he had not seen me before, then said, "I have seen you once. Who are you?" I answered, "May God be my helper. I was your companion for many years. I left my home and my possessions because of you, and journeyed in the barren desert together with you, and now you tell that you have seen me once." As for presence, it is when someone is present with God, for when he is absent from creatures, he enters into the presence of God in the sense that he is present with him. This is due to the fact that the recollection of God takes full possession of his heart, and he finds his heart to be present with God Most High. Someone's presence with God corresponds to the level of his absence from creatures. When he is completely absent from creatures, his presence is complete. When they say that someone is present, this means that his heart is present with God. Without being neglectful or forgetful of him and constantly remembering him. In his presence, God, may he be blessed and exalted, will unveil to him things that he has prepared for him and for him only. Sometimes Sufis describe the servant's return to self-awareness and to awareness of other creatures as his presence, meaning that he has returned from his absence from creatures to his presence with creatures after he was present with God. Their states in absence may vary. The absence of some does not last, whereas the absence of others may last for a while. It is said that Dhul-Nun al-Misri sent one of his companions to Abu Yazid al-Bistami so that he, the companion, would give him a description of Abu Yazid. When the companion reached the city of Bistam, he asked about the house of Abu Yazid. When he entered the house, Abu Yazid asked him what he wanted. He answered, "I am looking for Abu Yazid al-Bistami." Abu Yazid answered, "Who is Abu Yazid? Where is Abu Yazid? I myself am in search of Abu Yazid." The companion left Abu Yazid's house, saying, "This is a madman." He returned to Dhul-Nun and told him about what he had seen. On hearing this, Dhul-Nun began to cry and said, "My brother Abu Yazid has joined those who travel to God." Sobriety, sahw, and drunkenness, sukar. Sobriety is returning to self-consciousness after absence in God. Drunkenness is absence from one's self through a strong experience of God. In a sense, drunkenness is a complement to absence in that the drunken person may be relaxed as he is not as long as he is not fully immersed in his drunken state. On the other hand, in this state, any perception of outward things may completely disappear from his heart. This is the state of one who behaves like a drunk because his drunkenness has not yet taken full control of him, and he is still capable of perceiving outward things. At some point, his drunkenness may become so strong that it surpasses the state of absence. When the drunkenness of a drunk becomes really strong, his absence may surpass the absence experienced by someone in the state of absence. At the same time, the absence of someone in the state of absence may be more complete than the absence of a drunk, especially when he behaves like a drunk without actually having achieved the state of drunkenness. The state of absence may visit devotees whose hearts have become preoccupied by the influence of passionate longing for God and awe before Him, as well as by the dictates of fear of God and hope for His mercy. On the contrary, drunkenness is experienced only by those who want to experience ecstatic states. When the attributes of God's beauty are revealed to someone, he experiences the state of drunkenness, his spirit rejoices, and his heart becomes intoxicated. Of this state, the following poetic verses are recited. Your sobriety from my words is a complete reunion, whereas your drunkenness, when you contemplate me, permits you to indulge in drinking. Neither the cup-bearer nor the drunkard get tired of the wine of contemplation, each cup of which makes your heart drunk. They, Sufis, also recite the following verse. The circling of the cup makes some people drunk, while I get drunk from the one who passes it around. They also recite, I have two states of intoxication, while my boon companions have only one. This is what makes me different from them. They also recite, there are two kinds of drunkenness, the drunkenness of passion and the drunkenness of wine. How can a man who has tasted either of them ever come to his senses? Know that one's sobriety corresponds to one's drunkenness. He who experiences true drunkenness enjoys true sobriety, and he whose drunkenness is mixed with good fortune experiences a sobriety that is also mixed with good fortune. He who has been truthful in his state of sobriety is protected in his drunkenness. Both drunkenness and sobriety imply distinction. However, when one becomes witness to the power of the real, one loses one's personal attributes and becomes fully consumed and overwhelmed by it. Of this state, it is said, when the morning appears to the star of old wine, the drunk and the sober will become equal. God of Most High said, and when his Lord revealed himself to the mountain, he made it crumble to dust, and Moses fell down swooning. He fell down swooning in spite of his prophethood and his great stature as a messenger of God, while the mountain crumbled to dust in spite of its superior firmness and strength. In his state of drunkenness, the servant of God finds himself under the mark of a mystical state, whereas in his state of sobriety, he is under the mark of knowledge In this state of drunkenness, he is protected by God without applying his own effort, while in his state of sobriety, he protects himself from error through his own actions. Sobriety and drunkenness come after tasting and drinking. Tasting zauq and drinking shurb. Among the words that they use are tasting and drinking. They use these words to describe the fruits of God's self-manifestation, the result of God's self-unveiling and God's unexpected visitations which they experience. The first of these is tasting, then comes drinking, and finally the quenching of thirst. Rie. They attain the taste of true meanings through the purity of their pious deeds. They attain the drinking of true meanings through fulfilling the requirements of their spiritual stations, and they quench their thirst for true meanings through their constant search for God's presence. The person in the state of tasting is behaving like a drunk. The person in the state of drinking is drunk. The person who has quenched his thirst is sober. When someone's love of God is strong, his state of drinking becomes permanent. And when it becomes permanent, his drinking does not make him drunk. He then becomes sober in God and oblivious of all his mundane concerns. He is neither influenced by anything that comes to him in the empirical world, nor is he changed from the state in which he is now. When one's innermost heart is pure, one's drinking is safe from any taint, and when one's drinking becomes one's nourishment, one can neither abstain from it nor survive without it. They recite, "The cup of wine is like the mother's milk to us. If we cannot taste it, we cannot survive." They also recite, "I am surprised when someone says, 'I have remembered God.' How can I forget so that I have to remember what I have forgotten? I have drunk love one cup after another, but although wine does not run out, I cannot quench my thirst for it." It is said that Yahya bin Muad wrote to Abu Yazid al-Bistami, "Here is the one who has drunk from the cup of love and will never feel thirst again." Abu Yazid responded to him, "I am surprised at the weakness of your spiritual state. Here is a man who has gulped down all the seas of existence, yet his mouth is agape, wanting more. Know that the cups of closeness to God appear from the unseen and are bestowed only upon those whose hearts are emancipated and whose spirits are free from attachment to the things of this world." Eraser, Mahv, and affirmation, Itbat. Eraser is the removal of habitual attributes, and affirmation is the fulfillment of the commands of servanthood. When someone has removed blameworthy qualities from his internal states and replaced them with praiseworthy states and actions, he becomes a man of eraser and affirmation. I heard that Master Abu Ali al-Dakak, may God have mercy on him, said that one Sufi Sheikh asked someone who was discussing eraser and affirmation, "What do you erase and what do you assert?" The speaker fell silent. Abu Ali then said, "Don't you know that the mystical movement in both eraser and affirmation, he who has neither eraser nor affirmation is idle and abandoned." Eraser can be of several types: the eraser of faults from one's externals, the removal of forgetfulness from one's internal self, the removal of deficiency from one's innermost heart, the eraser of faults in the affirmation of good deeds. The eraser of forgetfulness is the affirmation of spiritual stations with God, and the eraser of deficiency is the affirmation of joining God. This is eraser and affirmation in the meaning of servitude. As regards the true eraser and affirmation, they come from God's power. That is, eraser is that which God conceals and denies, whereas affirmation is that which He shows and makes manifest. Eraser and affirmation are determined by the divine will, because God Most High said, God erases and affirms what He wills. It is said that God erases from the hearts of the Gnostics any thought of other than Himself, and He affirms the remembrance of Himself on His servants' tongues. God erases and affirms for each one in accordance with his internal state. When God, may He be exalted, erases someone's self-perception, He affirms him through His own true self. When He erases someone's affirmation through His true self, He returns him to the vision of other things and settles him in the planes of differentiation. Someone asked Al-Shibli, may God have mercy on him, why do I always see you being restless? Isn't he with you and aren't you with him? Al-Shibli answered, when I am with him, I am. However, I am erased in him. Obliteration is above eraser because eraser leaves a trace while obliteration leaves no trace whatsoever. The ultimate goal of the folk is, when God obliterates their self-perception completely, never to return them to themselves. For this video, we will finish here. In the next video, we will continue, inshallah. Please don't forget to subscribe. Till then, Allah Hafiz. Goodbye.